Ladies and gentlemen, here we go into game number 1 between FXO, QXC, and Mouse Hasuobs. Terran versus Protoss. Starting map is going to be Antiga Shipyard.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a great TVP. Absolutely top tier, these guys. QXC, absolutely wonderful. Haven't had the chance to cast him in a very long time, so it's a privilege to do it once again. And Hasuobs. What you can say about Hasuobs is that he's just so incredibly solid in pretty much every possible respect. So we can bring in the one and only QXC. He is in the purple trunks, very stylish, down to the bottom of Antiga Shipyard. And he is, of course, Team FXO. And is playing Terran versus opponent, the one and only Hasuobs from Team Mouse Sports. He is in the red trunks playing Protoss to the north.
Yeah, one thing about QXC is he's gotten much stronger ever since he went over to Korea and started training there. We saw an immaculate improvement in him, and I feel like he's cleaned up a bit. He doesn't just attack for the sake of attacking. He has purpose with it, and it's so cool to see the new and improved QXC. But going up against Hasuobs, who defeated Puma 2-0, that is going to be a very difficult task to overcome.
Oh, yes. And I also heard that QXC actually changed his conditioner, so now his hair is even more luxurious and fine.
I'm sure he did. I actually got the chance to see him last MLG. He looked super handsome, of course.
Did you get the chance to touch him?
Dude, I always give him a big old hug, Total Biscuit. I give everybody hugs, though. So I don't.
It's an excuse to caress that
mane
of his.
Exactly.
Admit it. There you go. So you're comfortable with that.
Well, I
value that.
I do the double arms over the shoulders. You know, I take a very dominant grip over him, but then I start just caressing his hair, doing the whole herbal essence thing. I wish it was the body wash though.
Because you're worth it, man. Because you're worth it.
Exactly. But nevertheless, QXC starting up here with no gas over here, and Hasuobs is going to directly scout and see everything going on. And Antiga Shipyard is definitely a map for a gasless expansion type of build. So Hasuobs, knowing that he'll probably do some sort of fast expansion of his own, I'm interested to see how he actually does it. There's a lot of different styles from Protoss to capture your fast expansion. I think the best style to do on this map in particular is the Huck style. You go up to 20 probes, and then you immediately get your Nexus, but looks like Hasuobs is... No, he can still do that, I'm sorry. But you go up to 20 probes, you cut gas at 100, and you get 1 Stalker and your Cybernetics core, and then you go from there.
Well, we'll see if he decides to go down that particular route. The mineral count is getting nice and high right here for QXC. Big, greedy expansion right here from him. Oh, yes, I like that play an awful lot. Knows that his opponent has no intention of attacking whatsoever at the moment. So it's like, hey, Marines, single barracks, no gas, straight into the expansion. 3 minutes 45.
Yep, and QXC will get in here and also see his opponent. Now, what he's trying to look for is where the chrono boosts are allocated, how many chrono boosts there are, and how much gas he is mining. He sees that there are a ton of chrono boosts saved up, so there is the potential, in fact, for Hasuobs to do some sort of 4-gate play, but it's very rare that we see that in TVP ever these days.
Yeah, it just isn't the thing. I mean, you're seeing a lot more, for instance, Immortal pushes right now in the early game in order to deal with the Terran expansions. That nice bit of range is helping an awful lot in that regard. We'll see if Hasuobs decides to go for that. But 2 more barracks coming down right here for QXC. And he's looking nice and secure at the moment. Hasn't really bothered with a bunker just yet. Going to Marines to deal with this Stalker, which will, of course, not go down. Hasuobs is well aware of the capability of his units. Doesn't need to concern himself with that at all. And is also scouting for the possibility of hidden SCVs to look for expansion timing. Hasuobs with a fairly late Nexus right here in comparison to his opponent.
Yeah, that will cost him a little bit, but it won't be a big deal. He has to actually come back in this with the probe count, which I'm sure he is doing, 24 to 21.
Yep, very nice.
Harvesters. So everything's okay. This is all pretty standard. Hasuobs always favors this type of style anyway. He likes to just go super standard, play to that maxed army, the 200 army, and then start to do stuff. His Protoss for his Terran in particular is extra passive. As soon as that 10-minute mark hits, when Medivacs are out, that's when he has to be super passive. And, you know, he obliges to that.
Absolutely, and here comes this 3-stock push right here. Should be able to take out a few Marines, and Hasuobs shouldn't lose a Stalker there unless, of course, he missed micros, which he doesn't. He's got the robotics facility on the way, so we could potentially see the deployment of Immortals to bust some bunkers, but that is a lot of Marines on the field, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to go for that just yet. I expect to see a few more sentries coming out from him in order to deal with that. Maybe put down the Forge, maybe grab that early +1 armor. In the meantime, however, we do have Marauders on the way up for QXC on a pretty standard 3 tech lab setup, and then going for the factory right there. So this Marine Marauder medevac push is no doubt coming.
Yeah, and it's important to note the order in which that QXC is doing this. He's actually getting the tech labs and the reactor first, as you said, before the factory. What that implies is he wants to establish that center control a little bit earlier so he can go out with his medevacs and attack right away. Now, what this means, because he has delayed medevacs, obviously the push and the drop will come out much later. The mana will come out much later, but he has the capabilities of stopping any sort of 2-base all-ins a lot easier. QXC just playing that extra safe. He could have probably squeezed out a little bit of efficiency because he knows his opponent is Hasuobs, is a very standard player, but still, I like just this overall robust play from QXC so far.
Yeah, there's nothing really wrong with either player at this point, and it's going to come down to this first engagement as to what ends up happening. We've got a fairly significant army supply advantage in favor of QXC at the moment, with the probe count streaming ahead for Hasuobs. He's looking really nice in that regard. QXC pushing out with a small force, not committing his full army to this just yet. Wants to, as you predicted earlier, establish control in the center so that he's got a good staging area to go in. In the meantime, we've got Hasuobs working on a robotics bay, and this is going to be a window that QXC can exploit, I feel. We look at the size of Hasuobs' army. It's not exactly all that great. He does have the gateways available to reinforce. He's currently sitting on 4 of them right now, mining an awful lot of gas to set up for those Colossi, but QXC is able to strike before the Colossi come out, then he can do some significant damage.
Well, there he goes, swapping out the starport on the reactor. He will be getting those medevacs out ASAP to do just that, as you said. And now, just now, putting down the 3rd and 4th gas. Very peculiar time to do that. We can see he has just enough gas for 1 of these medevacs. That's why you need that 3rd reactor, or the 3rd refinery out ASAP, because now he can't get all of his upgrades, all the Marauder tech, and the double medevac production at the same time. He really kind of wastes a lot of time here. A little bit of a blunder by QXC, but I don't think it'll affect him all too much in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, my concern is that it delays the attack just a little bit too much, and then Colossi get on the field. But a single Colossus is certainly very vulnerable. QXC could eliminate that. Actually, notice the QXC has 4 in gas over there, just in case one of them happens to have cardiac arrest and falls over, and make sure they can pick up nice and easily. No real problems there. Nice and efficient play. Whatever the case, we still have QXC with a fairly significant army count advantage. However, that's going to change now that the Colossus is on the field, and the second one on its way as well. Thermal Lance is most likely going to be finished by the time QXC hits this, and we'll see how much damage it can do. There's the first pickup, and is just hovering around, taking in the scenery, looking at those beautiful rocks right there.
And what's peculiar about QXC right now is he's actually not producing anything out of his starport, and this is one of the worst things you can do. You need an active starport if you want to be able to deal with something like Colossus pressure. You need those medevacs out, and then you need the Vikings out, of course. And right now, I fear for QXC, he is doing good damage with these Marines, got 1 pylon, forced a lot of mining time off of this 1 expansion, but still, QXC, I mean, look at that. He's actually going for a 2nd starport, and I don't know if that was completely necessary because he's not even doing anything with his first one.
The first one, yeah. His gas got really high there, actually, as did his mineral count, which is rather unusual. So I don't really know what he was playing at there, but Hasuobs now deciding that this is the time to pull out, and this is a good little catch he's going to be able to get right here. He'll be able to kill those Marauders without too much of a problem whatsoever, splitting that army down the middle, and that's given a fairly significant army supply count advantage to Hasuobs right now, and QXC on the defensive. As you said before, most likely due to that blunder. If it had more medevacs on the field, he would have been able to evacuate that force.
Yeah, and look at this. He's actually gotten a tech lab for that second starport. So possibly he's going something like Ravens in this position. But right now he has to hard counter those this incoming pressure because these Colossus will be raining some hell down on all the production facilities over here for QXC.
Yeah, this is really, really nice positioning right now for Hasuobs, I have to say. He's going to be able to take out Tech Labs. He's going to be able to do some production damage, and he can step down there. He wants to watch out for that. Hasuobs with great control, though. No real doubt about that. Former Warcraft 3 player. We always like to talk about Warcraft 3 players, micro. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. You can just point to that. And not losing a Colossus there. A little bit of light harassment. And it's given time for QXC to get things sorted out. And as you said, Raven. Yep. I don't dislike the choice of Raven here, certainly not. He hasn't really got any upgrades for it as of yet, but it's always nice to have a Raven in the mix. There's no real doubt. In the meantime, we've got Templar Archives on the way up for Hasuobs, and he has secured that third base, whereas this Orbital Command only just now moving out for QXC.
Now, what the Raven does, it obviously clears out observers like this, but what it also does is allows those PDDs to go down, basically saying your Colossus are dead in the water. There's no way you can defend against it because my output for those Vikings are too much, and you will not be able to burn PDDs fast enough. It also obviously gives power to that ground, but the way I see it, people these days just get enough Vikings so that the Colossus do no damage as it is. It's a very heavy gas-intensive build to go Ravens, and your opportunity costs are going to be those Ghosts. So we see very, very late Ghost Academy coming out right now for QXC, and even the upgrades are suffering because of this. So I'm not sure if I completely love this tech lab on the starport, but it's definitely a unique interpretation of how to play this mid-game, end-game stage.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff, and what is also interesting is just how defensive Hasuobs has been, how effective he has. Not sure if you caught it, but there was a full dropship that was taken out there by Hasuobs, which immediately made QXC's army cap plunge, and Hasuobs, just thanks to really, really nice play, has managed to keep things going very nicely and gradually expand that army. He's only lost 4 units this entire game, and 2 of those were probes. Just think about that for a second. 16 minutes into a game, 350 resources lost, and that's it. And he has an economic lead over his opponent. So this puts QXC in a really tough spot. Yeah,
and now that High Templars are out, you can feed back those PDDs, so it basically makes these Ravens completely useless. Oh my goodness. And this is a High Templar timing with that Psionic Storm. He's going to push in right now.
Yeah, and can you blame him? Why would he not? Go for it. He might as well. And we've got QXC now moving into position. A good Viking count. You're still looking at 4 Colossus there. That's a lot of firepower, even on the ground as well. And I like what Hasuobs is doing right here. He's keeping this High Templar back for the time being. Doesn't want to show them just yet. Wants to draw QXC into the optimal position for storms, or of course for feedback, depending on what he believes is most important at that point. And this Death Ball, very, very dangerous. And I think the reason I like, say, Ravens in this matchup at this stage is a big death ball like that is now nice and easily broken up by the use of the Seeker missile with its speed upgrade. So but I'm not seeing that. Of course, we've only got a single Raven on the field.
Yeah, very peculiar build, and it looks like High Templar is in position to actually feed back these medevacs. It's so important to feed back those medevacs. Now the Stalkers are coming up here and trying to snipe out some of those Vikings, but Hasuobs might have overstepped himself. Got to be careful.
Oh, yes, he ended up losing some High Templar in the process. A Marauder flanking force came in there, and now those force units must play against them, but a huge storm in the middle right there. QXC just eats it completely. Another feedback. The problem is that meat shield right there for Hasuobs is going down. The Viking count is still high enough, and it really nicely defended. A massive warp in to follow that one up. I don't think he's going to go in there. Perhaps a wasted storm there as well, and blinks right into a huge force of Marauders. A massive misstep there for Hasuobs again. Very uncharacteristic, and in those few seconds, Hasuobs went from 350 resources down to 6,800 down.
Unfortunately, a very inefficient attack for him, and yeah, he's suffering right now. He doesn't have Colossus out in the field, only revolving around High Templars for those mass AoE damaging units. Let's see, upgrades 1-2 for Hasuobs, 2-2 for QXC, so no huge advantage going to either of these players. 3-2 is being worked on by Hasuobs. I think he needs to just wait for that until there's another engagement, But, you know, it's a tough situation. Oh, no.
Oh no, that's a terrible, terrible move as far as I'm concerned for Hasuobs. He split his force in two. He blinked the Stalkers up there to do some production damage, but has now taken a lot of damage on his main force as well. And if QXC can just push here, I don't know if Hasuobs can hold that off. And splitting that force in two, I don't think that was all that wise. Big storm right there, but it doesn't do enough damage.
Yep, and the Stalkers are just ravaging this production line. It looks like everything that comes out of here is just blown to smithereens. Meanwhile, QXC is just sharking around the middle of the map. He's actually not doing anything. He needs to do something with this army, whether it be go into the natural. That's where a big hit. Oh my, exact. And it looks like the Zealots are going to start engaging on this. Hasuobs is kind of misstepping right here. But in the meantime, those Stalkers finally getting cleaned up. QXC maintains map control, but these Zealots are scary, man.
Yeah, I don't like what QXC is doing here, honestly. I would have liked to see him go straight for the natural. It would have been perfect timing. Now Colossus comes in from the back, takes several kills already, and thanks to his positioning, is able to get out there. There's the scanner. Oh, nice. Money scan right there from QXC to finish that one up. He gets the cleanup, but his army's been torn to pieces, and there are more Zealots coming in right here that are now 3-2 upgraded. And with charge, we'll be able to do huge amounts of damage to the remaining forces of QXC, and there's the cleanup.
And the Colossus get in here. There are no Vikings out in the field. These Colossus are extra powerful because of that. They basically can do so much damage. All Hasuobs needs to do right now is build his gateway army yet again. But in the meantime, QXC is taking this lull to actually take his gold expansion. What a brilliant move. Taking this gold expansion represents just a lot of capabilities for production. He has to maintain map control if he wants to do this, though. It's a great time to do it, but he has to stick all of his units in that middle and make sure that Hasuobs never takes that back.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hasuobs is going to do the same thing. He's going to go for the gold. And this is an interesting part of this particular map and this particular game. I'm looking at this ship weapons upgrade. We're looking at level 3 ship weapon upgrade for QXC. That is quite unusual to see, honestly. And needless to say, it's going to help the Vikings out an awful lot. And I have to wonder if there's some kind of weird transition coming up for him if he's going to go with level 3 ship weapons. But we'll find out one way or the other. QXC is already on 3-3 for his infantry and is now securing this middle. His army supplies at 111 to 77. He's got what he needs to hold this.
Yeah, and it looks like 4 medevacs on the top. They're just sitting over there waiting for Hasuobs to make a move. Now that Hasuobs actually pushes in the front, there's the big drop that goes down with all of these medevacs. So many units in the back here. Hasuobs is just going to go completely backwards. He has to just forfeit the center control and defend his main.
Oh, yeah, it's very, very nice. Some feedbacks there, and we've got the Colossus moving in to try and defend against this. Good micromanagement, extremely good. Wow. Hasuobs with the cleanup, and honestly, didn't even take that much damage in the process. I'm impressed, very impressed there by Hasuobs' defense.
Hasuobs' micro is time and time again showing to be world-class. Now he takes center control. Big storm goes off on all of these ground units, but the Colossus, the ones he has to be careful. He can arrange everything over here, feedbacking the medevacs, and now bearing down this gold expansion. I don't know what QXC can do now that he gave up this expansion, or gave up the center control, rather.
Yeah, I'm honestly not so keen on that drop. I really wasn't. It didn't do all that much. I would have liked him just to hold the center, make sure this kind of thing can't happen. Huge storms going off, and QXC's army is whittled down nicely. And I think that he's taken a lot of damage in the process. He's unable to mine from this base at this point in time. And army supply is currently slightly in favor of Hasuobs, whereas QXC had a much larger army before this.
Yeah, QXC really, as you said, that one drop hurt him so much. Now Hasuobs has this center control, able to take the gold expansion, but what does he do from here? Still, QXC has taken another base in the 3 o'clock position, it looks like, but has not saturated that just yet. And we can already see that, you know, QXC, he's being very, very gas spent at this point in time. He doesn't have a lot of gas, and it's all coming down, I think, to how he proceeded in that early game stage. He wasn't able to retain his ghost either, which is another big no-no by QXC. Right now, I feel like Hasuobs, because he has the ultimate army composition, he should be okay coming in this final fight.
Oh yeah, it's a really nasty mix he's got going on as well here. Colossus, Archon, High Templar, 3/3 Zealots, big Stalker count as well for flanking maneuvers and dealing with the air. It's just pretty much perfect. How do you deal with that? I really have no idea, and QXC is going to have to fight really hard to deal with this massive ball of doom that's coming his way.
Yeah, and look at this. Oh, I love this play. Look, 2 High Templars on the high ground over here in the 3 o'clock position. These are just checking for some medevacs that are coming over here to try to defend against this. He'll feed back the medevacs if they ever come through. Just such clever play. And all Hasuobs has to do is wait. That's the coolest part. He can just wait and play the war of attrition, knowing that his opponent just cannot stay alive with no economy. He's always going to have increased economy with that gold expansion and the expansions he's taking in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah, nice little bit of feedback action. 1 ghost, 2 ghosts taken out right there as he goes for the engagement and forces QXC to run right into a storm. Big damage, and then comes the firepower. Oh my, QXC taking huge amounts of damage here as the Archons smash their way through there as well. His force is not down yet, but army supply is looking a little bit grim. QXC repeatedly reinforcing, trying to hold this middle. But what's the point of having the center if you can't mine from it?
Yeah, that's such a big problem. Now QXC is pushing up again. It looks like that final Colossus will go down, but without any of the ghosts. Oh my god, the High Templars are doing way too much damage. He needs to back out from here. The Archons now are getting in here, but they're actually behind all the units. Now finally just the Stalkers alone are able to clean up these Marine Marauders. That's something that you don't hear every day. One thing I do like about Hasuobs, though, is he's spreading out all the High Templars, making sure that there's levels and levels of High Templars you have to get through before you ever want to, you want to actually engage. So it makes so hard for QXC. He needs to retain his ghosts if he ever wants to go up against Hasuobs, else he'll never be able to just start taking the center control.
Yeah, you know what I don't like about QXC? The amount of storms he keeps eating. And yes, I know Hasuobs storms are great, but seriously, he is eating so many. Yeah. Another storm does huge damage. He's not getting out of them fast enough. In the meantime, Hasuobs has got a DT on that 3 o'clock base, forcing the scan right there. It's almost down to that Dark Templar.
Yeah, and we can see it was burning, but now the scan goes down, as you said, and all the SCVs will start repairing that one planetary fortress. It looks like all QXC has to, or all Hasuobs has to do is deny this the right-hand position. He could do that with a number of things. Right now he's just using Stalkers. I would love it if he just brought some Colossus over here and started bearing down all the SCVs and the planetary fortress. Just make it a ticking time bomb. But no, instead Hasuobs is going to bring his whole army, get out of that center. I don't know if I like that so much, Phil Biscuit. I think he needs to keep that center control because right now his gold expansion could be under attack pretty soon.
Yeah, QXC is going to take the opportunity to try and take out that gold expansion. Now, these Marauders are really badly injured. A good storm to clean some of them up. However, QXC is able to rapidly move out of that, and that's under threat. So this is a base trade right here. Hasuobs is able to take out that base very, very quickly. However, he loses his gold in the process. So, yeah, I don't know if I like that too much. That said, I would point out that Hasuobs can afford to lose bases like that. Yeah. He does have a really solid economy, whereas QXC really does not. But QXC is going to take this moment to try and mine from this gold as much as possible. But look at the supply difference between the two.
Yeah, it's just massive. QXC is so far behind right now. His positional advantage is forfeit because he just does not have enough units actually stemming up here. And this might be the end of it. It looks like the big blink comes on all the Marauders, and QXC just has to back up. This gold expansion under attack. Meanwhile, there are Dark Templars going around all over. GG comes out from QXC. And there you have it. I thought it was a little bit of a precarious situation for Hasuobs when he lost. As you said, Hasuobs went in for the attack, but QXC was able to kill everything and also take a gold expansion. Unfortunately for QXC, though, that drop in the 12 o'clock position, the 4 medevac drop, failed miserably. He tried to take out some Colossus, but he wasn't even able to take out one, showing again, I guess, that Warcraft 3 micro, Total Biscuit.
Yeah, pretty good. You know, that's the game where people only had about 5 units to move around at any given time, so I'm told. And now the Warcraft 3 players want my blood. Whatever the case, it was a massive failure of a drop. It really didn't do anything, as opposed to what Hasuobs actually did with his Stalkers, which was way more damaging. I mean, the amount of tech and production he was able to take out, and at the time, I was saying, yeah, I don't really like this too much, and splitting the army gives QXC an opportunity, but QXC was not able to capitalize on that. The Stalkers did end up doing enough damage to justify what he did, and then it was just a long, patient war of attrition for Hasuobs, who was able to consistently deny mining in the center. And those storms, man, they were super effective all the time, every time. And half of that comes down to the positioning of Hasuobs storms, and the other half comes down to QXC insisting on sitting in them.
Yeah, and on top of that, it was also, I mean, QXC's decision not to retain his ghosts. I guess it wasn't so much his decision, but, like, he just did not have good micro with them. It's really a shame. When you're going such a heavy Viking count, you need to make sure every ghost stays alive, because one, or let's say 2 ghosts that you lose is like 3 Vikings. Not exactly, I'm talking about in terms of gas. But, you know, having that gas being spent only towards Vikings at that point in time and upgrades, your ghosts are very limited. And against High Templars, that's a #1 priority. Unfortunately, QXC wasn't able to keep up. Hasuobs takes the first game. We're going to go into game number 2 right now and see if QXC can come back in this and join us. We'll be back in a little bit.